Okay, everybody, so. All right, so I don't know, ladies, gentlemen, how much experience you have with the graphing calculator and how much you don't. So if you are a relative expert on the graphing calculator, well, you'll have an easier time. If you're not, don't worry. I'm going to help guide you through. Can you raise your hand if you have never used a graphing calculator for like graphing purposes?
I have, but not like successfully.
Okay, so we're going to walk ourselves through it today. We're going to see how we do. So a graphing calculator, just really quickly, some of your basics. What you have when you turn it on right here is called the home screen. Since we almost all just changed our batteries, it will open up and be blank. If you now, like if I do, I don't know, 78 times 23, blah, 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 whatever. If I were to shut the calculator off and then turn it back on, whatever the, oh, let me change the brightness on this. Whatever the last person did, you will see showing up there. So if when you turn your calculator on, there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to you, just clear it. You don't need it. There we go. Now we can see a little bit better. All right, so you can always hit clear at the home screen. The home screen is where you do your basic math. Whatever normal calculations you would do on a calculator, this is where you would do it. The graphing calculator is so called because it can also do graphs, as I'm sure you are aware. So I just handed out to you this worksheet, and we have a function that we need to type in. You don't type it on the home screen. If I want to graph an equation, I need to put it in. What button do you think I push?
Y.
Yes, y equals. So if you look at the top left corner, there's a button called y equals. Anytime I want to enter in an equation that I want to see graph, that's where I'm going to go. So everybody, please hit y equals. Oh, mine does have some old stuff from someone. That's something old. So maybe yours has something in it. Maybe it doesn't. If yours has something old, just hit clear and any of that old stuff will go away. Okay, so I want to enter in the function that's on the worksheet there, 3x squared minus 5x minus 6. So in order to do that, I need 3, of course. And then if you take a look right next to the green alpha key, see there's a button there that has XT, a circle with a line through it and an N. That's basically your variable key. So if I want X, that's the button I use. You guys remember how to square something on a calculator like this? Yeah, there is an X squared button. If you look all the way along the left-hand column, about halfway down, you'll see the button that literally has an X squared on it. So if you hit that button, you will see that your function now looks like this, 3x squared. So far, so good. Minus. Now, this is important. There's a big difference on the graphing calculator between a minus and a negative. So when I'm reading that function out loud, I would say minus 5x. I would never say negative 5x. That's how you know which button to use. If you would say negative, you use the negative button. If you would say minus, you use the minus button. The minus button is in gray on the right-hand side with the other functions. So I want minus 5, and then x, remember, is the button right next to the green alpha key. And then I want minus 6. So take a moment and make sure that your screen looks like my screen. Yes.
Mine's not. Like it is, it's on, but it's not like.
Did you hit y equals?
Yes.
You just gotta see how it's looking on equal sign. You're just supposed to be able to. Yeah. If you don't have this line here like I do, that's no big deal. It's just a setting. So everybody take a moment, and in y1, you should have 3x squared minus 5x minus 6. just some additional notes. See how there's multiple ones? You have Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4. If I wanted to grab a whole bunch of functions at once, I could do that. So that's what the other ones are there for. Another fun fact, which you might not know, you don't have to do this, but if you use your directional arrow key and you went all the way over to the left, see how it's like blinking on that first thing? If you keep hitting enter, these are different things that it could graph like. So this would graph it as a thick line. This would graph it as it would shade above. So if I were doing an inequality, or shade below. So that's just fun facts. That would graph it as literally like that symbol. But anyway, normally we just leave it on a line. That would be a dotted line if I wanted a dotted line. And there we go, back to normal. Okay, so does everybody have what I have? Okay, so now if I want to actually see the graph, you can hit graph in the top right corner. Now listen, the coordinate plane is an infinite place. How do you know where in the coordinate plane it's going to show you? Well, we're probably lucky since we all just replaced the batteries. It's probably just going to do the factory reset back to +10 to -10 on both sets of axes. So go ahead and hit graph and we'll see what we get. Yeah, it looks like I'm getting roughly from -10 to +10 in both directions. Now yours might not look like that because remember, it could have zoomed in on any part of the coordinate plane, you know, and it's also based off of what the last person did. So if we hadn't all just changed the batteries, we all would have had a completely different window here. So what do you do? What if it's, you know, off in some random place and I don't know where it is and I want to get it back? You can always reset it back to this -10 to +10 by doing the following. See the button on the middle that says zoom? Middle button on the top? If you hit zoom, and then if you were to choose number 6, zoom standard, that always resets it back to -10 to +10. Okay? Well, what happens if that's not the area that you want? You can always change the window manually if you wanted to. Or you could zoom in and zoom out from here if you wanted. So if you looked at some of the other options, zoom in, choice 2, zoom out, choice 3. So if you want to see just a little bit more of the graph, you could zoom out a little bit or zoom in as needed. Okay. Or you could literally manually set your window by choosing the window button, which is also along the top, the second one in. You could tell it exactly, okay, I want you to start at -100 and go up to 700. You can make it whatever you want it to be. Okay, so those are options. If you don't remember much about the graphic calculator. But anyway, we could see a nice portion of our graph here. I already knew that this thing was going to be a parabola because it's just a quadratic. So the first thing we're supposed to do is to just roughly sketch this on the on our thing over here. Yeah. Well, in order to sketch it, gosh, wouldn't it be so convenient if I knew exactly where the graph bottoms out? Wouldn't it be so nice to know exactly where that point is? Oh, if only the calculator could tell me. It can. Does anybody remember how to get the graphic calculator to tell you exactly where that bottom point is? So here's the thing. There is a button called trace up here along the top. I'm going to caution you against using trace. Trace, see this little blink, you can hit it if you want. That little blinky guy came up, and then if you move the arrows around, he does move along the curve. The problem is, how do I know he's exactly at the bottom? I can only, this is good for approximating. But my goodness, I'm using a calculator. It should be able to tell me exactly, and it can. So trace is nice, but trace only gives us like estimates. There's a better way for me to calculate exactly what I want. Do you see above the trace key? See how it says calc in blue? If we access the calculate menu, oh boy, this is going to open up a world of options for us. So let's go ahead and hit second and then calc. Oh, look at all these options now. I can find a value. So I could say, hey, what's the value of this function when x is 10? I could plug it in. I could find a 0. 0 is another name for an Xintercept. We'll talk about those in a minute. I can also find a minimum or a maximum point. What did we have in our graph? It was bottoming out. So is that a max or a min? It's a minimum, right? Because ours was a parabola, a U shape. So at the very bottom of that U shape is a minimum. So I'm going to go ahead and choose choice 3 because I want to figure out what the minimum value, the lowest point where it kind of bottoms out there. That's what I'm looking for right now. So I'm going to choose choice 3, minimum. Now look at these questions that have come up. Do this with me if you aren't already. So we had hit second calc and then we chose choice 3 for the minimum. Look at these questions. It says left bound. So here's what you need to do. See how your blinky guy has appeared? And you'll get the hang of this once you do it a few times. I need to move. The calculator is basically asking me, hey, I'll give you the minimum value, but you need to tell me where to look. I can't look over the whole function because it goes on forever. So where do you want, narrow this window down for me, lady? So I say, okay, yes, that's fair. I'm going to go, when it says left bound, you have to be a little bit to the left of what you think is the lowest point. So where it bottoms out, just make sure you're a little bit to the left of it. And I'm going to hit enter. And then it says right bound. So I move the blinky guy a little bit to the right of where I think the bottom is. And then I hit enter again. You'll see, it's a little hard to see on mine, but you can see it on yours. There's 2 little black triangles that appear. And they should be pointing towards each other. If they're pointing away from each other, you don't know your left from your right. So try again. So look for those. Those 2 little black triangles should be pointing towards each other. That's me telling the calculator, just look in between these 2. Look, slice the entire function and just look in that range, in that section that I just set up for you. Find me the lowest point in there. You'll see it always asks you the third question to guess. Ignore that. Just hit enter again. Look at that. It gives you the exact coordinate of the minimum point on the bottom. You've got your x comma y. I don't know if you remember how to do it by hand. Do you remember how to find the vertex? If you have a quadratic? There's a whole bunch of work. You had to do negative b over 2a. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
That gets you the x coordinate. Then you take the x coordinate and plug it back in and see what the y is. My gosh. Would you want to do it with this number? Seems like a mess. How lucky that we have a calculator. So that is one of the things that I asked you to find down at the bottom. So let's copy this down before we clear the screen. Relative minimum we had at 0.83 repeating. Oh, it's actually not repeating, huh? I'm going to round it. And then negative 8.083 repeating. Does this graph have a relative max while we're here? No, so I'm not going to have to answer that one. That's fine. Okay. So another thing, as we're glancing over this sheet, another thing that I'm asked to find are the X and Y intercepts. See that? I'm asked for the X and Y intercepts here. So in order to find your X intercepts, that's the same thing as zeros. Do you remember where we saw that option? Yeah, if we go back to that calc menu, that's going to be the menu we're going to keep going back to again and again and again. So now that I have my minimum, I'm all done with that. I'm going to hit second calc. And then, yes, I see choice 2 is 0. Here's the thing. You can't find all the X intercepts at once. You can only find one at a time. So pick which one you're going to find first. I'll find this left one first. So it asked me the same set of questions. It says left bound. You need to put the blinky guy a little bit to the left of where you think the x-intercept is. Just a little bit. And then I hit enter. Now it says right bound. I need to go a little bit to the right of just that x-intercept, not of the whole graph. So I like to put my blinky guy on the x-intercept. Let's see if I can make it brighter on my screen. Is it too hard to see? Maybe if I turn this off. Is that worse? It's worse. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. So, oh, that's good. Perfect. Okay. So I put my blinky guy on the intercept and then I hit the right arrow button a couple times just so I'm sure I'm to the right of where I think the x-intercept is. I hit enter. Look at the two little triangles. It's going to find for me an x-intercept just in between those two little triangles. If you have one triangle over here and the other triangle all the way over here, it's going to give you an error because you're going to have two x-intercepts in there. So you got to make sure that your window is narrow enough that there's only one thing in there that it could find. Again, I ask you to guess, just hit enter. And there is your exact x-intercept, the first one. Okay, so let's go ahead and jot that one down before we forget. So I have one x-intercept at negative 0.808143. You repeat the process to find the second x-intercept. This one over here. Go ahead and try and find it. See if you can get there. I'll give you a minute to find it on your own and then I'll walk you through it if you can't get it. I know it's going to be 1, 2, it's going to be a 2 point something. I just don't know what it is. So see if you can make the calculator tell you exactly. Yeah. Did I go so fast? Did I miss the next piece? Make sure I sign out. Okay, did you find it at 2 point something? If you're unable to find it, let me walk you through. So you're going to hit the second calc to get into that calc menu. And I'm trying to find another 0. So I choose choice 2 again. And it's saying left bound. So you got to go. You got to find your blinky guy. Where even is he? By the way, if you can't ever find him, his coordinates are down below. Okay. So, all right, I got him. I'm going to bring him over. I'm trying to find this x-intercept, right? See how I can't even get the blinky guy like exactly on there. I need to make sure I'm a little bit to the left of it. So hit the left arrow key a couple of times. So you're sure you're on the left-hand side of this x-intercept. Hit enter. Put the blinky guy back on the x-intercept as close as you can get. And now I want right bound. So I'm going to hit the right arrow key a couple of times and hit enter. See how my two black triangles face each other in that tiny little window? That's going to say, okay, I'm going to find a 0 in between these two arrows. So hit enter just one more time and you'll see the blinky guy goes exactly where it's supposed to be. Goes exactly onto the x-intercept and there is its coordinate down below. Okay, so I'm going to round that to 2. I'll go 2.47. Cool. So I have both of my x-intercepts. Now to find the y-intercept, it's actually pretty easy to do because what's the value of x at the y-intercept? 0, right? So I don't know if you recall, but if you go back to that calc menu, if I hit second calc again, The very first option, value, lets me plug in any number I want for X and see what its value is. So if I just hit number 1, and if I just plug in 0 and hit, if I just hit enter, cool, it tells me when X is 0, then Y is -6. So there is my Y-intercept at 0, -6. If you take a look-see-loo up above, I asked you to evaluate the function of these given values. You have the answer to this one, right? Isn't that literally the one that we just did? F of 0, plugging in 0 for X got me the Y-intercept. So I already know that answer is -6. But now you can find these other ones using that same process. So go ahead, go into Calc, choose a value, and now just plug in a different one. Oh, the first one. Don't you read that as -3? That's a sign to you that you have to use the negative button. It's different than the minus button. Where's the negative button? It's underneath the 3. That's the negative button. Yes. Oh, you could. The problem with doing that is what happens when you want like 1.5. You know what I mean? Then you can change it in the table setting. But yeah, that's an option too. So if you're just using integers and they're relatively close to each other. So I don't know if you guys heard, but you can also use the table. So if you hit second and then graph, that brings up this table. And yeah, so this one will give you the X and Y coordinates. But like I said, there's some limitations there, because what if I want to evaluate when X is 1.5? I'd either have to change my table to show me 0.5 increments, or I can just do the value. So I usually do the value, but this will give you a whole bunch of them at once. Okay. So make sure that you are plugging in -3. So however you're doing it, did everybody get 36 for F of -3? Find F of -1 if you haven't already. Did you get what I got? I got 2. Someone tell me what F of 2 is. I won't show you. You tell me, what's F of 2?
-4.
I have no idea what the answer is. Yes, -4 is correct. And 4. 22? I agree. Okay. I think we have enough now that we can make a very decent sketch and we can answer the domain and range. Oh, you know what? I don't think that the calculator tells you what the domain is. I think that's still something that you just have to do. Is there a way? If there is a way, I don't know how to do it, which is totally possible. I don't think they do. Does anybody know? Will calculator tell you the domain of a given function? Let me ask this question real quick. Yeah. Where you going? Okay, she agrees. You can't, it won't like, if you input a function, it won't just tell you what the domain is. So we would have to do that same way we have been doing it. Okay. So now having all these pieces, I can make a very decent sketch of my graph if you haven't already. I know I'm gonna have a minimum at 0.83 -8. Right about there-ish. I have Xintercepts, one right about there, and then one at basically 2.5. So here is my nice sketch. Oh, for Pete's sake. What's the matter with this thing? There we go. Okay, we'll try this again. It's still videoing. Okay, perfect. Okay, so domain. Can anybody tell me what that is? What's the domain for this function? Jake? All reals. You can plug in whatever you want. Nothing's gonna break. The range, however, is not all reals. What is it? Evan?
Y is greater than or equal to -8.1.
Yes. So it's very important that we had our relative min there because this is the lowest Y value I ever get. And then I'll get everything above that. So my graph doesn't even start until I hit -8 point, however you rounded it. So my range is going to be that Y has to be greater than or equal to -8.083 repeating. Okay. I also want to make sure that I know where my relative min or max is because that's going to change where I'm increasing and decreasing. It's happening at that point. So where is my graph increasing? Can anybody tell me that? From where to where? Go ahead, Braylon.
From -8.0.
You're giving me the Y values. You would give me these as X. What's the X coordinates where we're increasing? No. So this point right here is happening at 0.83, comma, -8.1-ish, right? So the interval on which the function is increasing, we always think of the X values. So my X value right here is 0.83. So it's gonna start increasing when X is 0.83 and then continue forever. So I'm starting at 0.83. Once I get past 0.83, I'm going to start increasing, and then it will increase for all the rest of the X values. I've been decreasing, right? My graph is coming down from -infinity in my X direction all the way up until I hit the 0.83. That's the section of my graph where I'm decreasing. My X values from -infinity all the way until X is equal to 0.83. That's the chunk where it's decreasing. I'm increasing once x is past 0.83 until x is going to positive infinity. This thing is never constant. I don't have a flat line anywhere. So I don't have to worry about that part. How do we feel? Okay-ish? Not okay-ish? You'll get better with practice? Oh, what a good idea. Flip it over. Let's see what we got on this side. Okay, so first thing we have to do is we have to put in the new function. So can anybody walk me through? Oh, wait, you're probably still here. If I'm here, what am I gonna hit to put in this new thing? Jake, what do you hit? Oh, I didn't even know you could do that. You could hit clear. Then where am I gonna go? Yes, anytime I need to enter in a new equation, I have to go to y equals. I'm gonna clear out this old one because I don't need this anymore. So just hit clear. Now this is extremely important. Please listen to me because you're gonna get an error. And if you're not paying attention to me, I'm gonna have 6 people ask me in like 3 minutes, mine's not working. And I'm gonna say, yeah, because you didn't listen to me when I said to listen to me. How would you say this out loud? F of x, whatever, equals what? What's this? Negative x cubed. Negative. You got to use the negative button, not the minus. Negative. So everybody hit the negative underneath the 3. That's the one you need. Oh, sorry. Didn't even see my screen. There we go. And then x cubed. Now, we don't have a button for cubed. We had a button for square. Does anybody remember how to raise it to a different power besides 2? Laura?
Press a little arrow on the computer.
Exactly. If you look underneath the clear button, so all the way over here on the right-hand side, there's that little up arrow, it looks like. It's called a caret. So we use that to raise to whatever power we like. So you could square that way too, but since we have a button, we usually just use that. So I want it raised to the 3rd power. Now, you need to pay close attention because it depends on the setting of your calculator. See how my blinker is still like stuck up there? So if I kept typing, it would stay up there. See how it's staying up there? If I wanted to come back down, I just have to hit the right arrow key and see it kind of goes back to like the normal space. So just make sure that you're not still typing up in an exponent if your blinker is way up there. So now I need plus 2x squared plus x minus 2 plus x, and now minus 2. So you literally use the minus key, the gray one. Okay, so take a moment, make sure that your graph is in the right way. If you're not sure if it's right, let me know. Yep. Negative is under the 3. Yep. If you compare, so once you have it typed in, if you compare the negative with the minus, so the negative in front of the function and the negative or the minus 2 at the end, you can tell that they draw the minus on the screen much bigger and it's a little bit lower. So negative should be shorter. That's how I know right away if you messed that up or not. Okay, everybody has their function in? Let's go ahead and hit graph and see what we see. So hit graph, top right corner. Maybe we'll see what we want to see, maybe we won't. Oh, okay. We see a pretty good amount. What I would love to do, there's a kind of a lot happening right in this little section. Gosh, I would love to zoom in a little bit. Because remember, I'm going to want to find exactly where those x-intercepts are, and they're kind of all clustered. So let's zoom in together, shall we? So we're going to hit zoom, the middle button on the top, and then we're just going to zoom in, choice 2. Now, please listen. At first, you do this and you're like, my graph looks exactly the same. You have to hit enter. Just hit it once and let it do its thing. Ooh, look at that. Now, listen, don't you do this, but if you wanted, you could even zoom in again if you hit enter again. Don't you do it. No, it's okay. If you did, it's fine. So you could keep zooming in as much as you want. Same thing as zooming out. You could just keep zooming out. So I went one too far, so I have to go back to zoom and I need to zoom out a little bit. So let me zoom out one click. There you go. Excuse me. By the way, just another little side note about calculators. Let me zoom out one more time and just watch my screen. Is everybody watching? Watch this real quick. Let me zoom in a bit. I just want you to see this part. See this right here? See how it's like running? That's letting you know, hey, the calculator is still going. Very often, kids will do this. They push enter and see how it now turned into like this. It's like panicking. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, it's just like, if you look really closely, it's like blinking super fast. That's because I basically had paused the graph. See how it like didn't get to finish? So if your graph is like stuck and it's like not going anywhere, you just paused it. If you just hit enter again, it'll just finish. Okay, so hopefully your screen looks like mine. And now it will be much easier to find those x-intercepts. By the way, it doesn't matter what you find first. If you want to find the values first, I guess we can do that. Like the f of -3, f of -1, since it's first on our list. I usually help around, but whatever. Okay, go ahead, find me those 5 values. Do you remember how? Without me telling you? I'll give you a hint. When in doubt, look at the calculate menu. That calc menu. That's going to be the menu that we're going to keep going back to. So once you're in that calc menu, is it now ringing a bell? If I wanted to know what's the value of this function at -3, which one am I choosing? Correct. The first choice, value, right? If I want to know the value of the function, I would choose value. And then I just type in -3. Oh, what happened? What did I do wrong? Oh, do you mean to tell me it won't show me if it can't see the whole graph? Oh, that's stupid. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that I don't like at all. Hold on, -1. Wow. Okay, so if you're getting an error on -3 when you're trying to find that, I didn't realize this. It has to be able to see it on the screen. How stupid. So you could either zoom out or you could try the table. Let's just jump to the table. So that was a second and then graph. And you can just scroll up and down and see the different values. So -3 is 40. -1, you got 0, 2. Okay, did you get the same 5 values that I did? 40, 0, -2, 0, -30. Yeah. Okay, now that told us a whole bunch of information right there. I don't know if you realized. But let me go back to my graph here. I have, let's see. I have my y-intercept when x is 0, y is -2. So 0, -2, that's my y-intercept. -2, cool. I also know one of the x-intercepts. What does it have to be? We got lucky. We found one of the x-intercepts. I don't even have to go find it. It gave it to me just in this. One of these is telling me I'm an x-intercept. Which one? Who of these 5 is an x-intercept? Evan?
F of -1 and F
Yes. Look at that, guys. We got two X, I didn't even see the other one. I got two X-intercepts. Think about what's happening at an X-intercept. Isn't Y equal to 0? Look, I got 2 times when Y is equal to 0. It happens at -1, and it happens again at +2. So I don't have to bother asking my calculator to go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Yes, I don't have to do it. It gave those 2 to me. So X-intercepts, I know there's 3 altogether, but I know where 2 of them are already. One's at -1, one's at +2. And then I just got to figure out what the other one is. Yes, I think I can, it looks like it's at 1 on my screen, but I'm not sure. I'm going to ask it to check for sure. Okay, so I'm looking for where is this X-intercept right here. Do you remember how to ask the calculator to do that? How do I ask my calculator to find me an X-intercept? Let's go into the calc menu because we know we need to be in there. What was the thing that we chose? Yeah, zeros. That's another word for X-intercepts. So go ahead and choose choice 2. So remember, I'm trying to find this one because I already know where the 2 outside ones are. I just got to find that one. So let me move my blinky guy all the way over. Okay, he's pretty close to that X-intercept. I need him to be a little bit to the left of it. If it left a couple of times, hit enter. I need him to be a little bit to the right of it. So I make sure he's a little bit to the right of that X-intercept. So I have those 2 little black triangles that are sectioning off. Hey, just calculator, just look in between these 2. Find me an X-intercept. Hit enter one more time. Oh, and it conveniently is exactly at 1, but we didn't know that. It could have been at like 1.1, right? I would have no idea until I actually do it. Either by hand or on the calculator, but luckily we have a calculator. So my third X-intercept is in fact at 1. Okay. Now, if we look at our graph, what things does this graph have? Does it have a relative max? Let's start there. Would you say that this graph has a relative max? Yes, I agree. Right, somewhere here. I don't know what that coordinate is, but I can have the calculator tell me. So I'm definitely going to look for a relative max right here. I would also say that there's a relative min over here. Wouldn't you agree? It's going to bottom out over there and it's going to max over here. You can't find them both at the same time. You just have to pick one and find that one and then find the other. Let's find the relative max first, shall we? So I'm going to go back to that calc menu and I'm going to choose maximum, choice 4. And then I do the same thing. Put your blinky guy at about where you think that max is, and then go left a couple times, hit enter. Put him back, go right a couple times, hit enter. You hit enter one more time and it's going to jump right to it. So yeah, I'd never be able to find this exactly. I couldn't get this precise, right? So look at my calculator, did it for me. So at 1.5, 0.63. So let's jot that down as a relative max. .5, 0.63. Nice. I already added a dot to my graph for about where that's going to be. I only have one more thing left to find on the calculator, I believe, and that would be that relative min. So go ahead and find that relative min if you haven't already. If you need me to walk you through it, here we go. We're going back to that calc menu. We're going to choose choice 3 this time because I want a minimum. I got to bring my blinky guy all the way over there. Okay, so there's about where I think the minimum is. I'm going to go a little bit to the left of it, hit enter. Put them back. I'm going to go a little bit to the right of it, hit enter. I've got those 2 black triangles pointing towards each other. So I know I'm telling the calculator, hey, find me the lowest point in this region. Hit enter one more time. And there it is. Hopefully you got pretty darn close to what I have. So relative min is happening at negative 0.22 if I'm rounding to the nearest hundredths, and then negative 2.11. Great, okay, so let me put a dot where that relative min is. Right about there. So if I just trace this graph, it looks something like this. Bloop, bloop. Domain, what is it? All reals. Range, what is it? Also all reals. Well, that's easy enough. Now I ask you, where is this thing increasing? Remember, we're tracing it with our finger as you go from left to right. Where your finger goes upwards, that's where it's increasing. So I would claim it's only increasing in between my relative min and my relative max. This is the only region in between here where I'm increasing. Wouldn't you agree? Good thing I know where those relative max and min are happening. So I am, this is how I would write it. I'm increasing at all x values after negative 0.22 all the way up until I get to 1.5. That's the section where I'm increasing. Do you agree? Do you see where I'm getting these numbers from? Now, decreasing. There's two parts where my finger's going down. Here. So there's a section where I'm decreasing, and then I was increasing, and then I decrease again. So I just need to give those x values where that's happening. Well, I'm decreasing from negative all. Remember, I know that. Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Okay, I don't know what these are, but these have your guys' name tags, so I will give them to you. EJ, there's one for you. Evan and Chip. Welcome.
Oh, I got that.
Oh, maybe on your way out, you could just drop it off at whatever office that tells you. Main office, okay. All right, everybody. So where are the x values decreasing? Now, guys, oh, tell me that did not just freeze up. What else is the matter with this stupid thing? Anyway, I don't really need much of it anymore. Negative 0.22. All right, guys, I think some of you are getting confused with the increasing, decreasing part, okay? Trace it with your finger. This section is where it's decreasing, right? So let me shade that in another color. This whole thing going from here all the way down until it hits that point. I know that's pointing up. I know. But you're tracing from left to right. It's coming down. As you trace this graph from left to right, this green section is decreasing. Are you with me? When we're talking about the interval where we're increasing or decreasing, I actually don't really care about the y values when I go to give that interval. I care about what the x values are. I know the x value right here is negative 0.22. wasn't it still decreasing when X was -1? Wasn't it still decreasing when X was equal to -2? Wasn't it still decreasing when X was -4? Even though it's way up here, it still is on its way down. You with me? So this thing will be decreasing from -infinity all the way up until when I hit -0.22. That's where I'm decreasing for this first bunch. Then don't I decrease again right here? So I have another section. Let's get another color here. From here, this red section is also decreasing. Right? Right? So you have to give me the X values that represent this red piece. Where do they start? Well, I need the ordered pair for that. What is it? That max happens at 1.5, comma, 0.63. So where is this thing decreasing? This red part is decreasing from where to where? Yes, thank you. So then these two together make up the entire region where this function is decreasing. Oh, I'm so proud. I don't have any flat lines, so I don't have any regions of constant, so I get to skip over that. Okay, how do we feel? Yes. The y-intercept was at 0, -2. And we got that from up there.
Yeah, what was the X?
The x-intercepts, -1, 2, and 1. Okay, ladies, gentlemen. I'd like you to get as far as you can on this. If you don't finish, no, you can't take my calculators home.
Oh, darn.
I
You
know.
got to sleep through it, right?
Get as far as you can, yeah. Go so fast, oh my
Michael
gosh.
wants to get back. And then can I go?
Oh, gee.
Please don't, I have to. Wait, you say yes. No, I know. I know the future. Can I go?
Yeah, you guys gotta figure out what the line is, 'cause I'm already.
Okay, I'm next. No, I'm. Grace, I.
What are you, five?
Okay, but I've given you opportunity.
So, Prince, it's up to you. Do you want to start? You want to start it?
You got it, Chris. I believe in you. Chris, how does this face come off?
Welcome.
Yeah.
And hello. How are you? So you have this to say, but I'm not. Do you have like the old one? Have you been studying on it? And you? Okay, have you been watching the videos? Ah! Yes, please do. Oh, boy. Oh, let me stop this video. By the way,